Chapter 31, Potion of Life. The potion of life in the interstellar era's cultivation world was a kind of extremely famous, but very common genetic potion. There were various kinds of nutritious substances within, including rare energy ions. Within it, all vital elements needed for humans' body could be found. It was a mystical product, created by humanity's study of genetics. If a sickly person was to consume it, that person would be able to swiftly recover and become someone with a strong and muscular body. Of course, the prerequisite was that one had to be able to endure the powerful medicinal strength of the potion of life. For common mortals that had not awakened their mythological genes, their life had not undergone any evolution yet. If they drank this, the powerful medicinal strength of the potion would instantly cause them to explode due to being too overwhelmingly packed with energy. They would really explode. This was not a joke. Something like this had happened before, and there had been quite a few cases. There would always be people who were completely ignorant about cultivation, yet they wanted to ascend to the sky with a single step, choosing to drink the potion of life. However, they had no idea that their bodies weren't able to endure this, and all of them had extremely dire endings. Only cultivators were qualified to drink the potion of life. Also, the so-called nutrient fluids were none other than an extremely simplified version of the potion of life, a liquid food that was mass-produced for ordinary humans to replenish their nutrients. Where can I buy potions of life? Fong Lin asked the virtual beauty sales assistant. Potions of life? This item is easily found. At the west southern corner of the 256th level, the potions of life can be found in the automatic shop there. The virtual beauty smiled, instantly providing him with the answer, giving him an exact location. All right, let's go over there. Fong Lin nodded. He didn't delay and moved towards the elevator with the virtual assistant and arrived at the 256th level. At the west southern corner, a fully automatic and intelligent shop appeared before his eyes. Everything here was controlled by the AI, and there were no salespersons around. The customers could pay directly by scanning their identity microchip. It was extremely convenient. The door opened silently and Fong Lin entered, sweeping his gaze around. He discovered that various types of potions of life were stacked here neatly in rows, so many that it caused his eyes to be dazzled. Red, green, blue, purple, there were all sorts of colored potion of life that had different flavors. The prices were different too, ranging from 1,000 to 10,000 star coins. Fong Lin thought about it. He then asked again, why are the prices different although they are all potions of life? The virtual beauty had an intelligence level not lower than humans. She instantly distinguished that Fong Lin was someone who came to the 1,000 Gold building for the first time. She was an AI and had no emotions. A polite smile appeared on her face as she spoke gently and explained meticulously, the potions of life are only a general term for gene potions. According to their medicinal effect and their taste, they can be classified into various types. The disparity in their prices would naturally reflect the different kinds and grades. These potions here are one of the few gene potions that can be artificially synthesized by humans, but they can be separated into different grades, based on the synthesizing methods as well. Oh. Fong Lin was interested. He had always assumed that there would only be a single method to create these gene potions, and he didn't expect that they had different grades. This was the first time he heard of such a thing, and he patiently continued to listen. All these were common knowledge about cultivation resources. He knew nothing about them in the past. Hence, he wanted to use this chance to increase his understanding. As he slowly accumulated more knowledge, they would all become a part of his foundation at the end. The virtual beauty didn't beat around the bush. She stretched out a holographic hand and put up 3 fingers. Usually, items created by artificial synthesizing can be classified into 3 types. The first type is known as mechanical synthesis. This is the method used for mass production. In this type of production, high-tech AI and machinery would work together to make the potions. A small-scale gene potion factory can produce about over 10,000 bottles every second, and the products are sold everywhere throughout the solar system. However, there are different grades to gene potions, classified by the strength of the medicinal effect. Hence, for gene potions of the lowest grade, they are usually sold around 1,000 star coins. She then pointed to the potions of life that were the cheapest here. The vast majority of the potions here were the cheapest kind. After that, the virtual beauty then walked towards a row of gene potions that clearly had better packaging. As for the second type, it's known as manual synthesis. In the interstellar era, human labor is too expensive. This method greatly increases the production cost of this type of gene potions, and the selling price would naturally be raised higher accordingly. Usually, it sells for about 2,000 coins per bottle. Feng-Lin nodded. It was easy to understand. The more developed science and technology was, the more expensive human labor would be. This was why some of the smaller clans encouraged their lower-level clansmen to reproduce in great numbers. This was because the clan wanted to send them into the clan's factories to work, thereby saving costs on hiring manpower. Why do the gene potions need to be produced by manual synthesis? What's the difference between the two types of potions of life? Feng-Lin asked the crucial point. There's naturally a difference. The virtual beauty smiled. Life potions essentially is a kind of artificially synthesized gene medicine, and the composition of the various ingredients needs to be extremely precise. However, the strength of the medicinal effect can be extremely random, and a slight inaccuracy might render the expected results off by miles. For mechanical synthesis, although the speed is fast, they can only standardize the production method and had no way to accurately determine medicinal property. Although the production quantity is stable, the medicinal effect usually wouldn't be too high. For this point, only humans can achieve it. Hence, manual synthesis will usually produce a better quality potion of life. Oh. Feng-Lin declined to comment. He then pointed to a direction. What about this bottle? A row of potions of life was placed at the most conspicuous location of the shop. This potion was completely black, like the darkness of the night sky. There were also specks of silver shining within like the stars, presenting a beautiful sight. This potion was simply like a work of art. These potions are personally modulated by geneticists. The virtual beauty slowly spoke, giving people a solemn feeling, clearly enunciating each word. Geneticist. Feng-Lin started. This was the first time he heard of this term. Things that had a common reference to genetics were usually not ordinary. This seemed to be a brand new occupation and gave him a feeling of mystery, causing an intense interest to rise up in his heart. Upon seeing his excitement, the virtual beauty and as a sales assistant, naturally explained to clear his confusion, summarizing the information about geneticists to him. The virtual beauty explained, every geneticist is an expert in the field of genetics. They deeply research genetic theories and attempt to deduce and prove the relationship between various genes, as well as their evolution methods. After that, they use their knowledge of genetics to invent different kinds of fantastic and bizarre treasures for interstellar cultivators. There were some who created mythical gene potions, some who created micro-machinery that can greatly increase a human's strength. For example, the potions of life and mecha suits are both their creations. Hence, a gene potion that is modulated by a geneticist would definitely have far superior effects compared to ordinary potions. This is why there's also a great disparity in their prices. At the very least, this type of potions is sold for 10,000 coins or higher per bottle. As Feng-Lin listened, his eyes grew brighter. So bright that the light from them was almost blinding. he suddenly discovered that this occupation seemed to be extremely compatible for himself. Chapter 32, Shopping Frenzy. A geneticist was an expert on the field of mythological genes. And as for Feng Lin, he came from the past Earth era. His understanding of the myths and legends of the old world was undoubtedly extremely rich. No humans in the interstellar era would be able to surpass him with regards to this point. He was the #1 expert on the field of myths and legends. Feng Lin had absolute confidence in himself. Right now, the only thing he was lacking was the knowledge of genomics, but this isn't a huge problem. Who told him to have the genetic equation? Comparing his genetic equation to a geneticist that had to slowly experiment to gain data about a gene, Feng Lin could directly see the complete set of data about a gene. Genes held no secrets for him. By turning genetic information into data, this was an extreme innate ability. If he used it to dive into gene research theory, he would undoubtedly be able to make great strides in the field. A lack of genetic knowledge? This was too simple, he simply had to accumulate them. As for people who lack knowledge about myths and legends, this referred to everyone in the interstellar era. This was something they couldn't learn even if they wanted to learn. It was a pathway that had long since been severed by the river of time. One couldn't help but say that the geneticist occupation was simply a perfect match for Feng Lin. Even Feng Lin thought so himself. His expression remained unchanged as he hid his excitement in his heart and continued to listen patiently. Geneticists research genetic theory, and their understanding of potion of life is far above the common crowd, making them capable of greatly boosting the medicinal effect of the potion. For any cultivation resources that are modulated by a geneticist, the value of that cultivation resource will definitely soar up by more than 10 times, or sometimes even 100 times. A good example is this potion of life that resembles the starry space. A price of 10,000 star coins for it is already considered a bargain. Feng Lin was startled for a moment before the feeling of joy enveloped him. A geneticist could actually earn money so easily. Wasn't this his dream job? His poor family background had restricted his development. He had always lacked nutrient fluids and had insufficient cultivation resources. All of these required star coins. If he could become a geneticist, that would be. Feng Lin suddenly had a vision of endless star coins dazzling before his eyes. Also, these geneticists could also modulate and create nutrient medicine. They could be completely self-sufficient. At this moment, his heart was completely moved. However, the geneticist occupation was a very high-end occupation that had a high entry barrier. Right now, he could only look up and hope for it. He had to consider other things first. It was best to settle the more pressing things before him first. Feng Lin instantly had an idea, and he glanced at the beautiful virtual sales assistant. As they interacted, he discovered that this girl was extremely intelligent and had a good understanding of cultivation resources. He could seek her opinion. However, he wouldn't be so foolish as to tell his complete situation to a stranger. He changed his way of speaking. I have a friend who suddenly erupts forth with potential due to the imminent arrival of the college examination. However, he has a deficiency of nutrients in his body, and the process of his potential eruption had caused him to overdraft his life force. Other than buying potions of life, is there anything else he should buy? The virtual sales assistant thought about it and seriously replied, "What is his cultivation level?" "Just a cultivation apprentice," Feng Lin calmly answered, as though he wasn't speaking about himself. "In that case, potions of life should be sufficient." The virtual sales assistant didn't even need to think more and directly replied. "Why do you say that?" Feng Lin asked curiously. Potions of life are one of the few cultivation resources that can be artificially synthesized. It has good quality and affordable price that are really suitable for cultivation apprentices. If your friend is an interstellar cultivator, I might have suggested him to buy interstellar monsters' flesh, God's blood, etc., all these items of great nutritional value. But to cultivation apprentices, their vitality stats are too weak as their bodies have not been fully transformed. They wouldn't be able to digest such items of great nutritional value even if they consumed it. Not only would it be extremely wasteful, but it might even cause harm to their body, the virtual sales assistant explained clearly and finally convinced Fenglin. All right, let's buy all the potions of life then. Fenglin instantly made a decision. He pointed to the potions of life that were manually synthesized and the initial graded ones. Give me 10 bottles of the manually synthesized ones and 30 bottles for the initial grade ones. However, the virtual sales assistant suggested, if it's just to make up for the deficiency in nutrients, there's no need to spend so much on these. For manually synthesized potions of life, their price is double compared to the lowest grade, but their medicinal effect is only a little stronger. For the same amount of coins, you might as well purchase another 20 bottles of the initial grade potion of life. With regards to her good intentions, Fenglin nodded in appreciation. However, he had already decided in his heart. The reason why he wanted to buy the second type potion of life was that he wanted to taste the disparity of the medicinal effects between the two types to further deepen his understanding. Don't worry, just get me what I want. Fenglin didn't explain further. The virtual sales assistant shook her head, but she could only follow his orders. But clearly, she had underestimated Fenglin's shopping frenzy. Fenglin's eyes swept the surroundings and landed on the starry space-like potion of life. He pointed to that, and that too as well. This is a potion of life of the Starry Skies series that cost 10,000 star coins for a single bottle. The virtual sales assistant exclaimed in shock. There's no need for you to spend so much, this is simply. Don't need to say anything more. Fenglin stretched out his hands to prevent her from continuing to speak. He calmly added, I know my boundaries. From his tone, the virtual sales assistant could sense an unwavering decisiveness. She opened and closed her mouth a few times, but she didn't continue to say anything. Fenglin just spent 60,000 star coins just like this, to purchase 41 bottles of the potion of life. He easily carried the package and walked out of the shop. Is there anything you want to buy next? The virtual sales assistant asked again. Fenglin thought about it, but he had no idea for now. Right now, he only had 40,000 star coins left. He would feel that it was such a waste if he didn't manage to spend them. However, the main point was what should he spend on? This 1,000 gold building was so large, there should be something that was worth it for him to buy. In any case, the money was considered ill-gotten wealth. He might as well spend it all today. Next, Fenglin toured the building together with the virtual sales assistant. The products sold here were simply innumerable in the manner that it would cause the shopper to actually feel a sense of confusion, not knowing what to buy. There were simply too many good stuff here. The virtual assistant patiently accompanied him. Such a large spending customer was considered a good source of income to the 1,000 gold building. The AI adjusted her behavior in order to provide the best shopping experience and assistance to Fenglin. Respected customers, please take note. Tonight at 9 p.m., a new online auction will start. For customers who are keen on this, you can first browse over the information. A female voice rang out in all corners of the 1,000 gold building. Online auction? Fenglin's heart stirred. He used his identity microchip to connect to the wireless network. An instant later, information about various kinds of rare and valuable treasures of the auction appeared before his eyes. Most of the treasures displayed had a value that ranged from a 100,000 star coins to 1,000,000 star coins. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed as his gaze landed on a black metallic microchip that exuded a sense of science and technology. The introduction information of this product was written in blazing red, and there were only 3 words on it. Genetic Researchers' Research Notes. Chapter 33, Bidding Strategy. A genetic researcher's research notes? Feng Lin's eyes brightened, staring at that microchip. Geneticist was an occupation that could run parallel alongside with cultivation and wouldn't pose any hindrance to it. They were different, but they complemented each other. To simplify things, cultivators stepped on the path of cultivation after they awakened their mythological genes. As for geneticists, they deeply researched genetics, developing this field into an inscrutable discipline that could be applied to other things, producing various kinds of wonderful creations. One delved deep into the theoretical path, the other delved deep into the martial path. One researched the truth, while the other reigned over extraordinary might. Those who awakened their mythological genes, yet had not truly become interstellar cultivators, were all known as cultivation apprentices. Right now, Feng Lin was a cultivation apprentice. He had to evolve his basic genes into primeval genes before it could be considered that he had stepped through the gateway to the path of cultivation. Similarly, for geneticists, there was also a huge gateway that acted as a barrier. At the lowest level, they were known as genetic researchers and were of equal rank when compared to cultivation apprentices. They couldn't be considered a true geneticist yet. The black microchip Feng Lin was looking at was actually the research notes of a genetic researcher. Someone delivered a pillow to him just as he wanted to sleep. Although the knowledge recorded within were all elementary ones, to Feng Lin, who wanted to step on the pathway of becoming a geneticist, it was undoubtedly crucial that he obtained it. The only troublesome aspect was that the research notes were sold in an auction. Although the starting price wasn't considered expensive at only 5,000 star coins, once he encountered someone who also wanted this, the price would surge up like mad. The 40,000 star coins he had left was definitely insufficient. However, this was something that he was determined to get no matter the cost. This was why he felt that things would be troublesome. Feng Lin frowned and stood at his original location. There was a look of contemplation on his face. "What's going on?" the virtual assistant asked, sensing that he was in a difficult position. "I wish to purchase this research notes. However, I can only do so through the auction. Right now, I only have 40,000 star coins left with me. I'm afraid they won't be enough." Feng Lin didn't hide anything as he explained. "Genetic research notes?" The virtual assistant's eyes flashed with a run of digital data as she found what Feng Lin was looking at. This person wants to become a geneticist? A geneticist was undoubtedly a money-burning occupation. If one wanted to achieve some success in this field, other than needing to be blessed with talent far surpassing the ordinary, they had to spend astronomical amounts of money as well. Instruments, materials, techniques. All of this needed money, and the more the better. It was like the more money you burned, the faster you would be able to learn. Geneticists were precisely such an occupation. However, once you achieved some success, it would instantly become an occupation capable of generating huge amounts of wealth for you. You wouldn't need to worry about money anymore in your lifetime. But one had to know that it was rare for even 1 out of 10,000 students who studied genomics to become a true geneticist. The rate was less than 0.0001%. This could be said to be an occupation that had equal amounts of risk and opportunity. The nouveau riche, this man must be a wealthy lord. He actually wants to obtain the research notes of a genetic researcher and even plans to burn money freely on this. Both his status and identity are definitely extraordinary. The virtual assistant came to a conclusion after analyzing Feng Lin's words, voluntarily elevating Feng Lin's status as a customer to an unprecedented high one. If he had been a normal customer before this, there was no doubt that he just became a VIP customer. The AI modulated her attitude and expression, causing her smile to become even friendlier. In order to leave behind a good impression on Feng Lin, the virtual sales assistant passionately answered, "This is simple." Oh. The virtual sales assistant actually said that it was simple? Feng Lin was bewildered as he patiently continued listening on. As compared to humans, something powered by an AI would naturally have a stronger computing capacity and would be able to arrive at an answer far quicker. The virtual sales assistant wasted no time. There are many transaction methods in the 1,000 Gold building, but they can be classified into two types. The first method is purchasing, and the second method is bidding. Purchasing means that the customer simply handovers the star coins in exchange for the item they wanted to purchase. But in the case where the item or product is rare, unique, and limited in quantity, it would be auctioned away where the highest bidder wins. There is a bidding strategy you can use to help you procure the item of your interest. I'm sure that research notes aren't something that would be very popular. The starting price is only at 5,000 star coins, and I don't think there would be many people competing to get it. Hence, I suggest that later on when you bid, you can start off by directly elevating the bid to 10,000 star coins. Machem. Feng Lin nodded. Although the one-time increase of the bid would give off the feeling that he was a foolish spendthrift, he didn't mind the extra expense of 5,000 coins. What he minded was whether he could really obtain the research notes or not. It felt as though the virtual sales assistant noticed a slight hesitation on Feng Lin's expression. She continued, "Raising the bid to 10,000 is to create a barrier, blocking those who want to disturb your bid just for fun. What if there are still people who continue to bid against me?" Feng Lin asked. "Very easy. Just bid 100 star coins higher than whatever they bid." The virtual sales assistant's confident smile widened. 100 star coins? Feng Lin wanted to make sure that he didn't hear wrongly. Yes, 100 star coins, not too little, not too much. There aren't any rules on bidding in the online auction. You can bid an increment of 100 star coins every time if you wish to do so. After doing so for a few times, you would imperceptibly send out a message that you are determined to get the item no matter the cost. This will cause those bidders who want the item, but whose wills are not as strong as you, to back off. If the research notes are written by a true geneticist, the price would be invaluable. But this is merely elementary knowledge written by a genetic researcher. I believe not many people would be willing to spend too much on this. It's highly possible that you would have more money compared to the others who are also keen to bid on this, the virtual sales assistant spoke. To think that there was such a technique in bidding. Feng Lin nodded, silently feeling that this suggestion was excellent. Very soon, 9 p.m. arrived. The online auction of the 1,000 Gold building officially began. The customers could remotely bid through the wireless network, and if they succeeded, there would be robots delivering the item you bade successfully onto you. The numerous rare items entered the auction with the most valuable ones being listed behind. Feng Lin patiently waited, and the third item to be sold off in the auction soon appeared. It was none other than the research notes. At the instant the auction for this item started, he immediately called out a price, 10,000 star coins. The auction entered a momentary lull all of a sudden. Those flashing IDs of the customers stopped flashing for a few moments. This suggestion is truly useful. There was no response after some time. The customers keen on this item seemed to have been frightened by Feng Lin's bid of 10,000 star coins. Who knows, he might succeed in obtaining the research notes just for this price. 10,000 star coins, once. 10,000 star coins, twice. After a long time, the timer started to count down. If no one added any more bids after 3 calls, it would mean that Feng Lin had succeeded in bidding for this item. When things seemed to be completely going his way, there were people who finally couldn't endure it and started to bid against him. 11,000 star coins. A customer increased the bid by 1,000 star coins in a single breath. However, things weren't concluded yet. The other bidders immediately shouted out their own bids, competing against the previous one. 11,500. 12,000. 13,000. The auction entered the climax as the bids soared up, swiftly breaking into the 20,000 mark. Feng Lin's heart sank. He didn't expect that there would be so many bidders keen to obtain the same item as him. The competition was much tougher than he had imagined. However, this item was something he had to obtain at all cost. He couldn't give up. Even if he had to spend all 40,000 star coins here, he wouldn't feel any pain in his heart. Feng Lin was someone who had very definite opinions. Once his heart was determined, he wouldn't hesitate too much. He then called out another price for a new bid. 20,100 star coins. Chapter 34, obtained successfully. 20,100 star coins. It was exactly just 100 more star coins than 20,000. However, its effect was surprisingly good. The active IDs in the online auction once again sank into silence. All of them understood the meaning behind this number. This person was bent on winning this bid at all costs. The silence went on for a while. Feng Lin waited patiently. He knew that if someone really wanted it, they wouldn't be scared off by this 100 star coin. As expected, it wasn't too long before someone continued to bid. 22,000 star coins. This person raised the bid by almost 2,000 star coins at one go, displaying a modesty in his wealth. 23,000. Another person raised the bid by 1,000. Other than that, no one else called for a greater bid. After all, there weren't many people who would pay over 20,000 star coins for just a genetic researcher's notes. There was now only Feng Lin and two other people competing in the boisterous online auction. Clearly, his tactic was working. However, the other two IDs were very persistent and kept on raising the bid. Very soon, the bid was raised to 25,000. Feng Lin knew that it was time for him to take action. He called for a bid again, 25,100 star coins. He repeated his trick again, increasing the bid by 100 star coins. However, the two people had already seen through his trick and persistently raised the bid. They didn't back off just because of a mere increase of 100 star coins. 26,000 star coins. 27,000. 27,500. 27,800. The bidding price kept on escalating and very soon reached 28,000 star coins. The virtual sale assistant, who was at the side, watched with wide-open eyes, not understanding what had happened. The price for this item had far exceeded her expectations. It is just a genetic researcher's notes. Can it really fetch such a high price? Seeing that her earlier suggestion wasn't effective, her eyes flashed with data as she tried to analyze the situation. Feng Lin didn't mind it at all. After some observation, he noticed that his competitors' bid increments were getting lesser. Clearly, the price was getting closer to their limits. As long as he raised the bid further, they might just back off. The bidding price's increment slowed down, but it still reached 30,000 star coins in the end. 30,000 star coins, calling once. Calling twice. One ID left the competition and didn't raise the bid further. Right at this moment, Feng Lin jumped into the bidding pool again. 30,100 star coins. An increment of just 100 star coins. Again. The online auction descended to stillness with his timely bid. That last remaining bidder pondered for a while before starting to raise the bid again. 30,500 star coins. Just 500 star coins? It seemed that this opponent won't be able to hold on for long. Feng Lin smiled, feeling that he was going to win this very soon. Now that things had come down to this stage, it was impossible for him to back off. 30,600 star coins. With yet another 100 star coins increment, Feng Lin revealed that he would bring home these notes at all cost. For some reason, despite already reaching the limit, the last competitor still remained unyielding in this bidding war. 31,000. Each time, this competitor would raise the bid by 500 star coins. On the other hand, Feng Lin would consistently display his determination by yet another 100 star coins. The two of them kept on fighting, with neither party willing to lose out. The bidding price gradually rose to a shocking level. The ID in the online auction kept on flashing non-stop, sending out a bunch of exclamation marks. At the side, the virtual sale assistant was in a daze. She couldn't analyze the reason behind this foolish behavior. The bidding price kept on escalating, soon reaching 35,000 star coins. However, Feng Lin's patience was at its limit. He was no longer willing to wait. How long is this going to continue on for? After such a long tug of war, he could tell that his competitor was also determined to get the research notes. The slow increment to the bidding price made it hard for them to test each other's limits. Feng Lin had no intention to keep on dragging things out. He was ready to show his hand. 40,000 star coins. He threw in all of his funds. If he couldn't win the bid even with this, he could only count himself unlucky. Fortunately, this time around, his opponent fell silent for very long and finally stopped raising the bid. 40,000 star coins, calling once. Calling twice. Calling thrice. Sold. After 3 calls, the bell was rung. In the end, Feng Lin managed to win the bid for the genetic researcher's research notes. He heaved a sigh of relief. He was so close to letting it slip by. If that person continued to raise the bid, he might really have to give up on this. Thankfully, things turned out well. Although he had paid a huge price, Feng Lin didn't regret it. The higher the value of the notes, the more excitement and anticipation he felt. Just a set of the genetic researcher's notes was worth so much money. A geneticist was definitely a promising job with great prospects. He made the right choice. Sorry. My method isn't useful, and it made you spend so many star coins. The virtual sale assistant walked up, appearing very remorseful. Feng Lin shook his head. This isn't your fault. To be honest, this tactic was still effective and had caused the majority of the disruptors to back off. It was just that Feng Lin was unlucky and seemed to have encountered someone who also had a great interest in this set of research notes. In this case, any tactic would be useless and it would just be a competition of who had more money. Fortunately, Feng Lin had the last laugh. Although the process had been precarious, the results were satisfactory. He had successfully gotten his hands on it, and had also spent all of the 100,000 star coins. This was the first time that Feng Lin had spent money so extravagantly. It was both refreshing and exhilarating. He didn't leave any money remaining for his parents. Given his situation, it would be too tough to explain things and would only cause them to worry about where he had gotten the money instead. Secondly, the clan might start asking unwanted questions. This was something he wanted to avoid at all cost. Feng Lin didn't want any trouble for now. He could feel invisible ropes restricting his freedom. There was no choice, he could only remove these ropes in the future after he grew stronger. Esteemed customer, please feel free to visit us again in the future. As the virtual sale assistant bowed, Feng Lin exited the shop and headed in the direction of home. Chapter 35, Genomic Notes. The amount of liquid in each bottle wasn't much. Hence, 41 bottles only amounted to a small bag. Feng Lin successfully carried them on him without drawing any attention onto himself. When he arrived home, it was already late at night. Feng Lin's parents had been busy for the entire day and had already gone to sleep with his younger brother and sister. Feng Lin slowed down his movements, not alarming them as he quietly returned to his own dark room. Even after settling down a bit, he didn't drink the potion of life immediately. That was because he had yet to digest the green god type 3 nutrient medicine he took earlier. If he were to take in too much nutrients at one go, it would be bad for his digestion. Instead, he opened up the genetic researcher's research notes and started reading it. This was already the interstellar era, and the notes would definitely not be left in the outdated manner of handwritten notes. Instead, it was a recording that was stored in a microchip. The microchip revealed a resplendent glow and a three-dimensional projection. A human figure wearing white robes was standing in a room that was similar to that of a chemistry laboratory. He was holding test tubes in his hands as if he was trying to concoct something. The blood-red liquid released seething heat that felt like magma. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion rang out. No one knew what went wrong and the medicine suddenly exploded, causing the test tubes to be blasted into smithereens. The man in white robes seemed to have expected this and dodged agilely, not receiving any harm. However, he couldn't conceal the disappointment on his face. He looked toward the camera and slowly said, "Today is AC year 9982, astronomic calendar, date, March 17. The bubbling blood nutrient medicine's concoction has failed again. I can no longer remember how many times I've failed at this. Was it 100 times? 300 times? 1,000 times? I've become a little numb. Regardless, I must continue on. Only by successfully concocting the bubbling blood nutrient medicine would I then be able to become a true geneticist. This is my dream. I can't give up." The man started becoming busy as he gave the commentary. He kept concocting that red-colored medicine, then failing repeatedly. However, he was unwilling to give up. The scenes kept on flashing by. They were all recordings of him researching genomics. Feng Lin watched the recordings seriously and got a general gist of some situations concerning geneticists. Geneticists dived deep into the research of genomic theories. They would use them as a foundation to create and develop genetic-related cultivation resources, which then could be split into many types of domains. Some geneticists specialized in concocting medicine that supplemented cultivation, and they were known as genetic pharmacists. There were those who developed genetic suits that integrated with human genetics to unleash their prowess. These people were known as genetic armorers. Although they were all geneticists, the difference in their domains was huge. The person was called Arrows Lincoln. He was a researcher in the area of genetic medicine, and his specialization was in concoction. Medicine, treasures, genetic suits, martial arts. All these cultivation resources were segregated into different tiers, namely the low tier, mid-tier, high tier, and supreme tier. Only those who could at least concoct low-tier medicine could be considered real geneticists. The bubbling blood nutrient medicine was one of them. After taking this medicine, the user's blood would boil and the medicinal effect would arouse the potential of one's genetics instantly, unleashing a battle prowess that was over their usual by 50%. The drawback was that the medicinal effect could only be sustained for 1 hour. Thereafter, it would make the person suffer a great loss in their vital energy and blood, entering a period of weakness for 1 whole month. It shouldn't be used until the critical moment. Despite so, the demand for the bubbling blood nutrient medicine amongst cultivators was still higher than the supply for it. With a medicine like this, it would be as if a person had gained 1 more additional life in critical times. Who wouldn't want it? The potion of life that Feng Lin had bought was clearly a potion without any grade. It was just a byproduct when genetic pharmacists concocted a mid-tier medicine known as the God's Blood. At the sight of this, Feng Lin was increasingly certain in his thoughts of wanting to become a geneticist. Just a byproduct alone would have such a high value. If he could create a real genetic medicine, its worth would be simply unimaginable. There were a lot of contents in this set of notes, and the most valuable of them all were the 3 types of genetic medicine recorded on it: the bubbling blood nutrient medicine, the toughening potion, and the transformation potion. It was a pity that the price of the required equipment and ingredients for these genetic medicines were all too expensive. They weren't something that Feng Lin could afford. Right now, Feng Lin was in a situation as if he had a treasure vault in possession, but was unable to enter it. He could only feel extremely regretful. He then took a closer look through the genomics notes and found a point that was extremely useful in it. It was the key to consuming the potion of life. Ordinary people were unable to take the potion of life as the potion would cause their bodies to explode. However, this wasn't something absolute. If the potion was diluted, then ordinary people would be able to take them as well. However, the potion of life mustn't be diluted by water but by nutrient fluids. Nutrient fluids were originally obtained through the simplified concoction technique for the potion of life. It was an integration between natural and perfection. As long as the potion of life was diluted a whole lot with nutrient fluids, then ordinary people would be able to consume them. However, the genetic liquid must at least be mid-grade nutrient fluids. Initial-grade nutrient fluids were too inferior in quality and had too much impurities. If the two were to combine, an unpredictable reaction would occur instead. There might even be side effects after consuming it, and one might bring harm to her own self instead. Feng Lin suddenly recalled that he had not only taken over 100,000 star coins from Clot and the others, but he had also obtained 20 bottles of nutrient fluids as well. He could experiment with those. He took out a bottle of mid-grade nutrient fluids, and a light fragrance was emitting from it as he opened the cap. There was a great smell of vegetables and fruits, inducing a strong appetite. He then carefully brought out a bottle of potion of life. This potion was in an amber color and was in a half-solid state, just like that of jelly. It was very mysterious, and sent out a great fragrance. Just a slight whiff was enough for Feng Lin to feel that his 8 main meridians had been cleared up. Even both the inner and outer points of his meridians' passageways seemed to be cleared as well. He carefully dripped a drop of potion of life into the mid-grade nutrient fluid. The two of them integrated together in perfect harmonies like milk and water. It's really effective. Feng Lin was elated and drank it. The moment the nutrient fluids entered his body, they turned into hot waves rushing through his entire body, releasing heat at every nook and cranny. Each and every cell in his body was wriggling, crazily engulfing, and absorbing the nutrients just like a dried-up desert that had encountered an extremely rare heavy downpour. This feeling isn't bad at all. Feng Lin smacked his lips as if he could have more of it. Other than that, there was nothing different in particular. Feng Lin shook his head. Although the effect of this nutrient fluid mix wasn't bad, it didn't have much effect on him. After all, his vitality was already at 1.9. He had expended too much of his vitality earlier on and needed better nutritious things. Who's that? Suddenly, Feng Lin felt that something was amiss. Someone seemed to be spying on him, and his gaze pierced over like a sharp arrow. Two consecutive sharp cries rang out as if frightened by Feng Lin. 2 small figures, who were wearing pajamas, were given a shock and had fallen to the ground, not even daring to breathe loudly. Feng Lin looked carefully and realized that they were his younger brother Feng Cheng and his younger sister Feng Xian. He relaxed his expression, revealing a warm smile. "Why have the two of you come?" The 2 young ones, who had been scared by Feng Lin's sharp gaze earlier, looked at him and mumbled, "We smelled something nice, and then we woke up." Their faces were yellow from malnutrition. Right now, their eyes were fixed on the mid-grade nutrient fluid in Feng Lin's hand as they gulped. Did they wake up because of the nutrient fluid's fragrance? Feng Lin looked at them, smiled, and beckoned with his hand. His younger siblings walked over carefully. Feng Lin stuffed a bottle of mid-grade nutrient fluid into each of their hands. Here. These are for us? The two kids could not believe this as they wore a strong craving expression. Although they really wanted to drink it, they still shook their heads and returned it to him reluctantly. They then said, "Elder brother, aren't you going to drink it? This is a mid-grade nutrient fluid. If you were to drink it, you might just attain a breakthrough and be able to go for the college exam." A warm feeling rose in Feng Lin's heart as he stroked their yellowish hair that reminded him of the texture of grass. He smiled and said, "Elder brother has already drunk it. So, you guys can drink it." "Really?" The two of them looked at Feng Lin doubtfully. Seeing that Feng Lin had nodded, both Feng Cheng and Feng Xian were still kids after all and couldn't resist the temptation. They grabbed onto the nutrient fluids and sipped slowly, wearing a blissful and satisfied smile. They even licked off the residue on the corners of their lips as if they were like little beasts that had found a water supply after being parched in the desert for very long, feeling as if they would never have enough of it. Feng Lin smiled. Being a human in a second lifetime, he was given a brand new life and a new family. Being able to eat and drink to one's fill was the simplest form of happiness. He swore to himself to protect this moment of bliss as long as he could. Chapter 36, Mystery of Potential. Elder brother has earned these mid-grade nutrient fluids through part-time jobs. You'll be able to drink more of them in the future. If you guys have had your fill, then go back and sleep. Feng Lin put in a great effort before he was able to get his younger siblings to return to their rooms and sleep. A bottle of mid-grade nutrient fluid was 3 days' worth for an ordinary person. The two young kids had been malnourished for a prolonged period of time and had been starved for very long. After drinking one entire bottle, their heads were feeling groggy, and they couldn't even walk straight anymore. Yet, they still wanted to drink more. It was as if they weren't afraid that they'd explode from drinking it. However, Feng Lin wouldn't be so rash. He went through great difficulty to coax them to head back to sleep. Thereafter, he also fell onto his bed and sank into a deep slumber. He was far too tired. In this trip to the illusory martial pagoda, he had experienced over 20 great battles consecutively. Although he could use the genetic points to rapidly recover his stamina, his mental fatigue couldn't be easily removed like that. He completely blacked out, sinking into the world of darkness without dreaming through the entire night. When he woke up once again, it was already bright outside, and the sun was high above in the sky. His parents had already left. They still had to work overtime in the Feng clan's factory, even during the weekends. Seeing this scene, Feng Lin's belief grew increasingly firm. He didn't want a fate where he was restrained by others and had no freedom at all. After a simple washing up, Feng Lin went to check on his younger siblings and realized that they were still sleeping. Clearly, after drinking the bottle of mid-grade nutrient fluid, their bodies had received too much nutrition and needed to take a lot of effort to digest them. He smiled and turned to head out. He left the Feng clan grand building silently and arrived in a remote park not far away. The trees were lush and flourishing. A light breeze blew by, bringing with it an endless amount of refreshing air. Luckily, there were no classes to attend today. Feng Lin could make good use of this time to digest what he had obtained during this period of training. Cultivators had awakened their genes and could control their bodies to a greater degree compared to normal humans. He could feel with his sharp senses that the nutrient fluids he had taken yesterday still remained in his body. They hadn't been completely used up. Not wanting to waste any of that, He started cultivating genetic breathing art. This was the only genetic cultivation art he excelled in. He circulated the vital energy and blood throughout his entire body through a certain breathing rhythm, stimulating his vitality and tempering his genes. A cool breeze brushed by his face. Feng Lin sat on the floor as if he had integrated with the surroundings, entering a state as if there was great harmony between man and nature. Breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out. His breathing became one with the sound of the wind, following the rhythm of nature. His chest undulated as his lungs took in the fresh air strongly. All his red blood cells were stimulated. On the surface, the exterior of his body seemed calm, but on the inside, things seemed to be seething like a volcano or akin to overturning rivers and seas, ready to burst out at any moment. Feng Lin's skin revealed a faint red color from inside out, emitting surging heat gradually. This was a sign that his body cells had become vibrantly active. When his body reached the optimum condition, Feng Lin jumped up abruptly. His body was like an old machine that had been instantly activated, reaching the greatest efficiency. Bang, bang, bang. His punches were like drummings, releasing densely packed sounds. Feng Lin stood on the spot, starting to practice his fist arts. He started off with the Hong fist, each punch being very impactful and reaching deep into its target. Then it was the 8 trigram palm. Displaying great agility and grace, his body moved within the 8 trigrams, shifting on the spur to the left and right, without a single flaw. As an ancient saying went, Tai Chi, the great balance, brings peace to the world under the heavens, and the 8 extremities determined the course of the universe. He then carried on to practice the 2 ancient martial arts, Tai Chi and 8 extremes. One was tough and unyielding, while the other was gentle and soft. One flowed gently like water, while the other roared like a raging fire. It demonstrated the true essence of martial arts. Feng Lin practiced all the ancient martial arts he had acquired in the illusory martial pagoda. After finishing this round of practice, his fist arts changed again. With a tremble, his momentum changed, revealing an unshakable disposition as if one was beholding a high mountain in awe. Feng Lin clenched his fist before his chest as if he were a human King Kong. Vedra subduing devil fist. Ancient martial arts had deep profoundness. But as there were no genetic theories in them, one would be unable to maneuver their genetic abilities. Therefore, the prowess would tend to be weaker than genetic martial arts. The Vedra subduing devil fist was the only genetic martial art that Feng Lin knew. In the future, this would be his primary battle means. He must practice it until he achieved a high level of mastery in it. Vedra Dragon Claw. Mighty Vedra Palm. Invulnerable Vedra. Feng Lin performed moves after moves, activating his stone birth gene and turning into a stone person, every punches carrying the weight of a rocky mountain. Although the stone birth gene wasn't the Vedra gene that was a perfect match with the Vedra subduing devil fist, their attributes were similar and its prowess was impressive as well. Stifled sounds rang out in the air, and wherever the fist forces passed by, a series of air currents that could be seen by the naked eye would also surge. After practicing a set of it, Feng Lin noticed that his genetic martial art underwent a change again. Genetic potential plus 22%. To think that it was 22%. Feng Lin was taken by surprise. How could it increase by so much? This was merely the most ordinary cultivating session. Thus, it was completely out of his expectations to see his genetic potential increase by so much. His previous session had only raised his genetic potential by around 10%. Even the intense battles he had gone through in the illusory martial pagoda rarely produced such great result. Other than the early surge in genetic potential, the progress had been gradually reduced. In the end, there were rarely times where his genetic potential would have exceeded 20%. There must be some reason behind this. Feng Lin didn't think that this was a coincidence. Behind every coincidence, there must be inevitability. He recalled the recent changes he had been through. The only difference was that over the past 2 days, he had consecutively drunk a bottle of Green God Type 3 nutrient medicine as well as a mid-grade nutrient fluid that had a portion of Potion of Life added to it. The tremendous amount of nutrients replenished his body's depletion. This might be the only change. That's it. This must be the reason. Feng Lin's thoughts instantly cleared up. He recalled the AI's analysis in the illusory martial pagoda and then was enlightened about a higher level of mystery in the area of genetic potential. Why would cultivation increase one's genetic potential? When humans cultivated, it was also a process to modify themselves. Their body's structure would become more scientifically reasonable, evolving toward perfection. What that was presented would be genetic potential. However, such changes required a foundation as well. The foundation would be nutrients. Nutrients weren't genetic potential, but nutrients could be converted into genetic potential through cultivation. This was the connection between the two. Therefore, taking nutrient fluids directly wouldn't increase one's genetic potential, but with cultivation, the more nutrients there were, the more genetic potential would be converted. This might be the most intrinsic mystery of genetic potential. Earlier on, Feng Lin had lacked nutrients and could have only depleted his vitality. Therefore, after experiencing the outburst in potential at the very beginning, the genetic potential he had gained thereafter had decreased gradually, extremely close to nothing. After replenishing his nutrients, his potential immediately surged. After clearing this layer of mystery, Feng Lin became increasingly motivated in his cultivation. Genetic potential plus 18%, plus 14%, plus 10%, plus 6%, plus 2%. As expected, as he continued cultivating, his genetic potential started increasing again. However, the index kept decreasing steadily. At the very end, no matter how much effort he put in, the numbers didn't change at all. Clearly, at this stage, the nutrients in his body had been completely depleted once again. Right now, Feng Lin's potential had reached 178%, and he once again obtained a free genetic point. However, Feng Lin wasn't planning on strengthening his genes any further. He had strengthened his Stonebirth gene and Monkey gene by a total of 18 points. However, his vitality was only at 1.9. His gene's potential hadn't been completely unleashed. If he were to add more points to them, he'd be spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. He wouldn't commit this mistake again. Right now, he had sufficient nutrient fluids and Potion of Life. Therefore, he'd naturally be progressing steadily but surely. He was going to fully unleash the genetic potential first, before considering adding more points. It was undeniable that being a cultivator was an occupation that spent a lot of money. A bottle of high-grade nutrient fluid and a bottle of mid-grade nutrient fluid could sustain the living requirements of an ordinary person for 2 weeks. However, Feng Lin digested them in a single day. Right now, he needed to drink a more valuable Potion of Life that was of a higher grade. Feng Lin didn't feel pain at the expensive price at all. Life evolution was the most important, everything else was secondary. He took out a bottle of Potion of Life carefully. The potion presented an amber color as it shook. It was very clear and would easily attract gazes onto itself. Feng Lin tilted his head and gulped it down at one go. At the next moment, an overwhelming change happened in his body. Chapter 37, Life Transformation. Cold as water, scorching as fire. The moment the Potion of Life entered his stomach, there was an ice-cold energy surging as if he had just drunk the icy spring water. It felt gratifying and refreshing. However, as the medicine took effect, it turned into a completely scorching feeling. It felt boiling, like magma seething in his body. Feng Lin's expression became distorted, and he felt his entire body burning up, as if it was blazing into ashes, leaving nothing behind. Intense heat waves brought about huge impacts from the inside. There was only one thought left on his mind. With such violent medicinal effects, it was no wonder that this was a medicine that was used only by cultivators. Ordinary people couldn't take it at all. They would really explode. Excruciating pain came again and again like tidal waves, challenging Feng Lin's nerves and tolerance level, wanting to drown him into an endless stretch of darkness. Feng Lin couldn't afford to let his mind wander anymore. He quickly calmed down and focused, sitting down on the ground, sensing the changes to his body in great detail while bearing with the agony. The medicinal effects were like heat currents, penetrating and seeping into all parts of his body. Feng Lin felt as if he were a sturdy and unchanging piece of tough metal that was being grilled on strong fire, tempered incessantly and having the impurities removed. All of the vital energy and blood in his body were seething, circulating crazily. His green veins popped up and his face turned flushed red. It was as if he were on a stove. It felt extremely hot. Huh. He suddenly opened his mouth and spewed out seething hot air, giving himself a fright. He almost thought that he had become a fire-spewing dragon. Hot, hot, hot. Sweat kept flowing down, drenching his clothes and causing them to stick closely onto his body. Violent energies kept raging in his body like tidal waves. Feng Lin was worried that his body was going to burst. Pain, pain, pain. It felt as if there wasn't a spot on his body that wasn't in pain. Feng Lin gritted his teeth, and his entire body trembled intensely. The feeling was as though all of his organs on the inside had been crushed and then reassembled, presenting a state that was even more perfect and reasonable. There can be no construction without destruction. This was a process of destruction followed by construction. Unlike the cultivation process where one slowly changed their bodies to go through a life transformation, the changes brought by medicine were instant and immediate. The violent medicinal effects were crushing up his body's structure brutally and then reassembling them at rapid speed. The intense changes also meant that there would be an enormous pain. Feng Lin felt as if his consciousness was blurring slowly, drowned by waves of agony. However, the more this was so, the more he would need to hold on. Things might just be over with if he fainted. He might become completely free and relieved. However, he could only control the medicinal effects by maintaining his consciousness, allowing the transformation to be applied in the right places and maximizing the effects. Crackle, crackle. He lowered his head, gritting his teeth so hard that crackling sounds were released. It was as if they were going to shatter. Breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out. Feng Lin felt as if he was going to suffocate soon, and he started gasping for air. All the pores on his body opened up, digesting the scorching energies brought by the potion of life. In the end, the hot currents flowed through every corner and gradually seeping into the deepest part of his body. Organs, cells, cell nuclei. They seeped through many layers, from a wider perspective to a closer one, and then all the way to the genes. From inside to the outside, Feng Lin's body emitted a series of red light that was as clear and dark as blood. With the disappearance of the hot currents, Feng Lin could faintly see a scene he was used to. This was a dark world that was as vast as the universe. Many substances that were like snakes or dragons were tangled together, presenting an upward spiral form. Some parts of it were emitting light, sometimes bright and sometimes dark as if they were the countless stars in the sky. These were genes. He had to say that this was an extremely amazing scene. Although Feng Lin was able to see the distribution of the genes in his body with the reliance of genetic equations, this was the first time he could see the true forms of genes from the microscopic perspective with his own eyes. A series of warm currents were like the ocean currents on the Pacific Ocean that flowed from the south toward the north, suddenly flowing into this dark space. Many sections of the genes that had originally been dark and weren't emitting light suddenly burst out in great light, presenting a glow that was like that of the stars. They were pure, mysterious, ancient, the bringer of great astonishment. The light became increasingly brighter, like how small sparks could burn an entire stretch of plains. More and more of them gathered, rapidly spreading out throughout the entire dark space. The genes that were activated continued to split, controlling the different combinations of nutrients, cells' reproduction, organs' proliferation. Various parts of the body kept being modified, going through an intrinsic life transformation. Strange scenes passed by with a flash. He saw the process of the medicine taking effect, modifying his body. Kacha kacha. His joints kept crackling, his organs started to become agitated. They were like loud thunder, like the heavy rainstorm, like the strong tempest. Feng Lin curled up his body without realizing it. His body was going through a transformation, his muscles bulging and some imprints appeared. Layers of keratin started to form on his skin, just like shiny white marble that was smooth yet tough. He had no idea how long had passed before this intense pain started to subside gradually. Feng Lin slowly stood up and realized that he seemed to become like a clay figure, covered in perspiration and blood. He felt very sticky and uncomfortable. He suddenly felt very different. His vision became very strange. It was as if he was walking on heels where everything before him had become a little shorter. He moved slightly and his clothes instantly burst apart. Could it be? Feng Lin quickly took a selfie with his identity microchip. Only then did he discover his body's transformation. His height had surged up to 1.9 meters from 1.8 meters. His battered clothes revealed chunks of steady, toned, and streamlined muscles. His fair skin emitted a faint glow, just like pure white ivory. This was a form that could be described as perfection. Even when displaying his overflowing strength, his speed wouldn't have trouble keeping up. His body was straight and upright like a spear as he stood there with a vigorous and aggressive disposition. Without a doubt, Feng Lin knew that a huge change had gone on in his body. He quickly checked his gene attributes. Name, Feng Lin. Vitality, 2.3. Monkey gene, 10. Stonebirth gene, 8. Genetic potential, 178%. His potential didn't increase and neither was his genetic strengthening tally. However, his vitality index had gone through a change, breaking through 2 and reaching 2.3. Feng Lin was now the top of his class without a doubt. He had surpassed that Zhao Kai both in terms of his powers and his vitality. It could be said that with Feng Lin's battle instincts, that Zhao Kai would be stepped firmly under his feet, with no hope of reprieve. However, Feng Lin no longer cared about Zhao Kai. Zhao Kai wasn't fit to be his opponent. Feng Lin could only compare with himself. After his vitality had broken through to 2.0, his body went through a huge change. Feng Lin calmly sensed the exuberant energy that filled up his body. Even if he didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, he wouldn't feel tired at all. Endless amount of energy filled up his muscles. He couldn't help but become excited. That brain analysis in the illusory martial pagoda wasn't wrong. His genetic potential hadn't been completely stimulated. After drinking the potion of life and replenishing the nutrients in his body, his vitality surged immediately. Although he had a strong urge to drink another bottle, his rational mind stopped him. The potion of life was too domineering and would put on too great of a stress onto his body. He shouldn't drink more of it in the short term. After all, every medicine had its toxicity. Even great nourishing medicine had a high level of toxicity if one overconsumed them. Thus, his body still needed to have a good rest. Regardless, the transformation had brought his vitality to 2.3. he was definitely not a weakling anymore. Feng Lin was now even more confident on his cultivation path. Now, he would have to solve the pressing situation immediately. It was time for him to have an official negotiation with his family. Chapter 38, Family Conflict. The elevator moved upward rapidly. After Feng Lin went home, he changed his clothes before heading for the higher levels of the Feng clan grand building. The life transformation had brought him confidence, and he wasn't willing to wait a minute longer. He must have a showdown with his clan, settling the lurking danger that was coming 3 weeks later. With the cultivation path laid out before him, how could he possibly be willing to accept to be manipulated by the clan and lead a wasted life in the clan's factory? The solar system was a part of the chaotic star region. Societal order was in a mess, and people from the same clan would gather together, seeking a way to live on. Compared to ancient Earth-era's feudal society where families were smaller in size, the smallest family in the interstellar era had at least several 10,000 people. Each clan was like a small society. Where there were people, there were societies. Once the population size increased, contradictions and conflict would also go up along with it. Moreover, the clan would allocate their best resources to the most talented people, nurturing real experts. The people in the clan were split into different grades, based on their aptitudes and talents. The elevator that led to the Feng clan grand building's higher levels were packed with people dressed in luxurious clothings. Feng Lin, who was dressed in plain clothings, clearly stood out like an eyesore, causing many cold and disgusted gazes to sweep towards him. However, they were theoretically from the same clan after all and didn't hurl abusive words toward each other. They merely kept their distance, not wanting to get close to Feng Lin. At that moment, the place where Feng Lin was standing was completely empty, making it so that he was extremely conspicuous. However, Feng Lin took all of this very calmly. He soon arrived at the level he was supposed to head to and walked out. The 80th floor on the Feng clan grand building. Many towering buildings were densely packed in interstellar era cities. They were all very tall and majestic, each like a small mountain. If one stayed at a lower story, the sunlight would be easily blocked out, and these people would end up staying in the darkness for prolonged periods of time. These places were often treated as dark streets, places that only inferior people would stay in. The higher the story, the more sunlight would enter and the better the environment would be. Therefore, under normal circumstances, people who stayed on the higher floors of a building would either be rich or had high statuses. Those who stayed on the 80th or higher levels of the Feng clan grand building were considered members of the upper echelon, the purest direct descendants. At first glance, it was clear that Feng Lin was a lower-level member of the clan entering the place, and he immediately attracted countless surprised gazes. Those gazes brushed onto his plain clothes with apparent contempt. Feng Lin walked by as if he didn't see them. He passed through the long corridors and arrived before a spacious hall. There were probably several tens of people queuing in front of the door. Although the queue was long, everyone was waiting patiently and quietly. Feng clan's management office. There were several 10,000 people in such a big clan. When there were more people, there would be more trouble that required their attention. Therefore, every clan on Earth had a core member to handle everything in the clan. This person was known as the head butler. This was the office of the Feng clan's head butler. The Feng clan had a big population, and there were endless trifling matters that needed to be attended to daily. People who came to look for the head butler would usually have important matters. If they were to trouble the head butler with trifling matters, not only would it be useless, but they would also be severely punished. Despite so, it was still normal for there to be a queue. Sometimes, people might even need to queue up for a few days. Feng Lin found a seat at the back and sat down, waiting quietly. Why is an inferior clansman not going to work at the factory, but came here instead? Did he skive himself from work? And yet, he dares to come and look for the head butler? Aren't he afraid that he'd be punished? He's really daring. When the people in the queue saw Feng Lin getting close, they drew their distance in disgust immediately, mumbling between themselves. Feng Lin paid them no heed, continuing to wear a calm expression. The queue moved forward slowly and orderly. After over an hour, Feng Lin had only moved forward by 5 positions. If things were to continue on at this rate, he had no idea how long it would be before his turn arrived. However, he could only wait. If he were to barge in recklessly, he would only infuriate the head butler, causing things to go badly. It would be an extremely irrational decision. You lowly person. Get lost immediately. Time waits for no one. Is there a need to trouble the head butler with your insignificant matters? If my matter is delayed, you won't be able to hold responsibility for it. A rude voice rang out next to him. Feng Lin was pushed aside harshly. After he opened his eyes, he saw an extremely thin face that was wearing a proud expression. Feng Lin sighed. His expression was that of gloominess and annoyance. Why are there people who can't even do a good job as a villain? To think that they don't even have good judgment. Do I look like such a pushover? These messy thoughts flashed in Feng Lin's mind, and he became more serious. He knew the reason well. There were clear differences in grades within the clan. In the end, he, an inferior member in the clan, was seen as a weak pushover. People within the clan were segregated by their aptitudes and talents. Feng Lin's strength rose up too quickly, but he was still the 9th grade clansman he was before, a person of the lowest tier. These people might have seen this status of his and felt that his aptitude was too inferior, too weak. Therefore, they labeled him as a pushover directly. Otherwise, why was it so coincidental that this person didn't look for others, but only approached him when there were so many people queuing up before him? He must get stronger quickly. Only by getting stronger would he be able to get rid of this difficult situation. Otherwise, with there being no end to such troublesome matters, would he still be able to focus on his cultivation? Feng Lin felt great resentment in his heart. Brat, what's your name? You don't even know me, Feng Lang? Get lost. That skinny man had the appearance of a profligate son, and seeing that Feng Lin remained quiet, he pushed him once more. There was ridicule in his gaze. He was clearly doing this intentionally. When dealing with people like these, Feng Lin's reply was very simple. His fist. His fist that was the size of a sandbag struck out with great impact. He didn't waste his breath at all. The punch went out with a huge force. The other person went into a daze at the sight of this scene, as if not expecting Feng Lin to be so decisive in making his move. He was a little stunned. Bang! The moment the force of the fist reached its target, the guy was sent flying out, and he fell hard onto the ground. However, the person immediately got back up at the next moment. Other than appearing a little disheveled, he didn't seem injured at all. He glared fiercely at Feng Lin while holding on to his face. He flushed up, the asterisk starred. Don't you know that you shouldn't hit a person in the face? Although this punch wasn't delivered with great strength, this guy had faced it head-on. Feng Lin was a little surprised. This guy's vitality wasn't low. Seeing that Feng Lin didn't pay him any heed, the profligate son became increasingly infuriated. He assumed a fighting stance and pounced toward Feng Lin. Slithering snake fist. That person's body twisted about and moved rapidly with a strange movement. He came in close in a Z-shaped movement like a slithering snake. His 10 fingers flicking and releasing hissing sound like a snake sticking out its tongue, heading for Feng Lin's eyes with an extremely vicious move. Good job in coming over. Feng Lin wasn't fearful at all and also went head-on. The slithering snake fist had agile movements, allowing the practitioner to slither about and attacking the opponent's critical spots. In this regard, it was extremely similar to the 8-trigram palm. Feng Lin moved within the 8 trigrams, entering a tussle with his opponent. Their fist and palm collided, and Feng Lin's body didn't budge while the other guy kept retreating, overshadowed on the first contact. Good job. Beat him up. Beat him up to death. If you're a man, then don't be a coward. I haven't expected that there'd be a good show to watch here. The people in the surroundings didn't seem afraid to see trouble stirred up and kept on cheering them. Suddenly, a strict voice rang out. What are you guys doing? Why are you guys having a conflict within the clan, violating the clan's regulations? If you can't give me a reason for this, I'll confine all of you. Chapter 39, officially laying their cards out. The stern, silver-haired elderly strode over as swiftly as the thunder, moving like the wind. Every strand of his hair was pencil straight. There was a malicious glint in his eyes, like a northern goshawk soaring across the skies above as it overlooked the crowd below. Head butler. For the regular clansmen of the Feng clan, he was an important person who ruled their fate. The nosy spectators bowed their head in respect, not daring to even let out a gasp. The person who fought against Feng Lin was alarmed, then seized the opportunity to escape from the area of Feng Lin's techniques. They stood unmoving at their spot, their bodies stayed idle. Feng Lin didn't bow. Instead, his eyes remained fixated on the approaching silver-haired elderly. There was a hint of recognition amid their unfamiliarity. This was the elderly who had informed him of his interview at their clan's factory. That was right, he was Feng clan's head butler, also known as Butler Ing. Note, Ing in his name is also the same word used for eagle. That conspicuous hooked nose and the pair of eagle eyes would truly make one shudder in fear. You two, come with me. The silver-haired elderly stopped in front of them, sizing them up before turning on his heels and walked towards the house, projecting an air of prestige and dignity. Feng Lin and Feng Leng followed suit. Hey! These two fellows didn't do this on purpose, right? What an act! They pretended to fight in order to gain the head butler's attention. This way, they can cut the queue and enter. How crafty those two are. Those who had spent half a day queuing were stunned by the scene, and their frustrations were beyond compare. Yet, none of them dared to go overboard with their impudence in front of the head butler. Instead, they merely maintained their death glares upon Feng Lin and Feng Leng. They were spectators to the conflict, which arose from queue cutting. In the end, they were the ones who suffered the indignance of having their queue being cut. Who could they seek justice from? How could they keep their frustrations at bay from this? Feng Lin didn't know if this was a case of queue cutting, but he knew that he didn't. Moreover, according to his observations, this Feng Leng fellow didn't have such intention either. With the head butler's amassed power, the rascal trembled ceaselessly as he trailed behind. It was obvious that he was terrified and couldn't bear it. Only his eyes continued shooting resentful glances at Feng Lin from time to time. He had originally viewed Feng Lin as a low-grade clansman and merely wanted the latter to give up his place for him. He was a high-grade clansman. What was wrong with doing that? Who would have known that this rascal would be so bold as to retaliate? Now they were doomed, they angered the head butler. All that was left for them were the consequences they must bear. See, nothing would have happened if you have obediently given up your place, right? If I get punished by the head butler, I'll make sure to make you pay. Filled with bitter resentment, he pushed all the responsibility and blamed them onto Feng Lin. Feng Lin didn't notice his gaze, and even if he did, he wouldn't care. Following the head butler, the two of them stepped into a spacious room. The silver-haired elderly leaned against the chair, observing the two of them from a distance. He didn't seem to have any intention of letting them sit. Spill. Why did the two of you fight in the clan and violated the rules? If there isn't a valid reason, then don't blame me for being harsh. An ugly smile emerged from Fong Lang's features, crying injustice at once. Third granduncle, I've been wronged. It's this rascal who instigated it and provoked me. You must punish him severely. The culprit began blaming his victim. Shut up. Don't give me that frivolous attitude, the head butler thundered in anger. His steely gaze remained impassive. How many times have I told you? In here, I am Fong Clan's head butler, not your third granduncle. It's useless even if you cried to the heavens. You can dismiss the idea of me ever bending the rules in order to favor you. Fong Lang's scrawny stature shivered in fear at that, no longer brave enough to breathe a word. Fong Lang, do you think I don't know you by now? How many times in this month have you caused trouble? If it wasn't because you are the patriarch's eldest grandson, I'd have you confined long ago. The head butler roared again, reducing Fong Lang into silence from his fear. Fong Lin couldn't help but cast a sidelong glance at him. Never would he have expected this skinny and weak person to be the patriarch's eldest grandson. He didn't sense much potential from Fong Lang when they exchanged blows earlier either. Was he the good-for-nothing in their line of direct descendants? Could it be that this rascal was a protagonist of the story, one who would turn their fate around from being a loser? A small clan, direct descendant, good-for-nothing. These traits all matched Fong Lang well. Fong Lin sized up the scrawny guy. He exuded an aura of wretchedness and dejection from head to toe. It was evident now that he was not it. And what's with you? The head butler's attention shifted to Fong Lin. It was a lot colder than before. With Fong Lang, he was annoyed. After all, the former was the patriarch's eldest grandson, and though they didn't grow to become a respectable figure, he couldn't punish them as he willed either. Fong Lin was different. He was a mere low-grade clansman, and didn't require much concern. As a head butler, he had the power to control Fong Lin's fate. With Fong Lin, he was utterly callous. The minute Fong Lin gave the wrong answer, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the face of the person who held the key to most of their clansmen's fate, anyone would feel the pressure. Fong Lin returned the gaze and, in a manner neither servile nor overbearing, he spoke up. I was queuing up before this person forced his way into the queue. That was why we fought. If the head butler has doubts, you can watch the surveillance footage. Head butler, don't listen to this lad's nonsense. Realizing the circumstances were against him, Fong Lang defended at once. Did I allow you to speak? The head butler said coldly. Fong Lang stopped immediately and didn't dare to utter another word. Looking at Fong Lin, who maintained a calm disposition since the start, the head butler was surprised. This person's temperament wasn't too bad. Not everyone would be able to remain this calm and composed in front of him. He picked out the building's surveillance footage and projected the scene, which was captured on the optical computer's log. It appeared clearly and crisply in front of them. With such conclusive evidence, there was no use denying anything. The head butler shot a glance at Fong Lang before revealing his verdict. 10,000 star coins will be deducted from your allowance this month. No, head butler. I'll only be left with 50,000 star coins this way. That's not enough. Fong Lang lamented and was just about to continue when he was caught by the head butler's deadly stare. Silencing himself, it was all he could do before turning towards Fong Lin with a resentful stare. Stupid rascal, you make me lose so many star coins. I'll make you pay once we're out of here. As expected from the descendant of the patriarch. Even if he was a loser, his allowance was still in the tens of thousands range. Thinking back about how his parents barely earned 5,000 star coins from slogging away day after day in the factory, Fong Lin clenched his fists. Not only that, but they had to pay 70% taxes to the clan. If this isn't explicit exploitation, then what is? At the thought that he, too, would have to follow this tragedy of a destiny. Feng Lin's gaze turned so deep and dark, it was almost like staring into a bottomless pit. It's about time that this cold and apathetic clan lay their cards out on the table. He had already been struck by an epiphany. At that moment, the head butler's gaze swept over, having no intention of letting Feng Lin go scot-free. In a sinister way, he began, "Low-grade clansman, Feng Lin. I recall that you'll be going to the clan's energy factory for an internship in 3 weeks. What are you doing here out of the blue? If there's nothing important, then don't blame me for being discourteous." So, he's a low-grade clansman who's about to intern at the factory. Feng Lang glanced over and lost his interest. It was truly degrading to hold a grudge against such a character. But Feng Lin's next words had his eyes widening in surprise. "I reject," Feng Lin said simply. "What?" Hearing that, the head butler's expression darkened at once. No one ever dared to speak to him in this manner before. How utterly disgraceful. "I said, I reject the internship." Afraid that the head butler didn't hear him clearly, Feng Lin confirmed his notion with an unwavering expression. Standing on the sidelines, Feng Lang was stunned. There was someone who actually had the guts to defy the head butler. This is truly a rebellion. Chapter 40, A Fight to the End. Just what exactly were head butlers? They were authority figures who managed all matters in a clan. To most clansmen, whose paths would never cross with the patriarch, head butlers were their god. They controlled their fate. If they commanded you to go left, no one would dare turn right. Head butlers could place you on top of the world and let you enjoy the clan's preferential treatment, but they could also throw you down to pit's bottom and work in the clan's sweatshop factories without redemption for your entire life. Feng Lang was stunned by Feng Lin's audacity to defy the head butler. This rascal seriously didn't know the gravity of this. He had practically given up on improving his situation. To think that he dared to offend even the head butler. Suddenly, Feng Lang didn't think much about the lad's tousle with him from before. That was nothing compared to this. He must say, this lowly boy was truly a man. Feng Lang's expression was painted with shock. Feng Lin, on the other hand, remained confrontational with the head butler. He looked calm and without any intention to retreat. Perhaps this head butler was a godlike figure to the rest of the Feng clansmen, but this wasn't the case for him. He was just about to be assigned to one of the clan's sweatshop factories. His predestined fate was miserable enough as it stood. How much worse could it get even if he offended this head butler? When else should he fight against his fate, if not now? Feng Lin had long since arrived at this realization. Fight. He must fight and fight to the end. His miserable fate was right in front of his eyes. If he didn't fight now, then he would never get out of this predicament. Feng Lin's "I reject" was resolute, spoken with a tone that could sever iron. The atmosphere tensed up in an instant, so much so that it was stifling. The head butler's face scrunched hideously in disapproval, his anger rising by the minute until it reached its limit. Withholding the power of the clansman, there was no one else who was above him besides the patriarch. It wouldn't be far-fetched to say that he could hide the sky with a hand. When had anyone opposed him? And a low-grade clansman at that. What a rebellion! Where was the discipline if he didn't give this rascal a taste of his medicine? Where would he place his dignity as the head butler if he didn't? The pair of malicious, northern goshawk's eyes maintained its death stare on Feng Lin. They were sharp as knives, as though they could slice Feng Lin into a million pieces. A surge of strange energy rose in the air, as imposing as a mountain, cold as ice while it weighed heavily on one's heart. Feng Lin remained unmoving at his spot, despite the clear display of struggle in his expression. It was obvious that he could feel the heavy pressure as though the weight of a hill was pressing against his spine, forcing him to keel in defeat and kneel on the ground, and to stop defying. No. His gaze burned intensely while he forced his back up, taking on a posture of being undaunted by the head butler. Feng Lin didn't dare to let his spine bend in the slightest. Like a lonely pine tree atop the cliff, windswept and battered by rain, suppressed by adversity. It would rather die than submit to it, he would rather die than bend. What a man! Despite his condescending views about Feng Lin before, Feng Lang couldn't help being inwardly awed by the former. The intangible interaction between the two was intense. As a spectator, Feng Lang couldn't help but shiver at the sight. Head butler was an interstellar cultivator. Yet, against such a dignified presence, this low-grade clansman was unyielding and continued standing tall. Regardless of his potential, the fact that he dared to go up against the head butler was respectable in itself. Don't even think about it. Seeing as he couldn't take down Feng Lin with his vigor alone, the head butler broke his silence. A glint flashed across Feng Lang's eyes at the sound of that. As the direct descendant of the clan, he was no stranger to the head butler. While the head butler remained impassive, he must have been raging inside. Otherwise, for someone who remained cold and distant usually, he wouldn't have spouted such agitated choice of words. How decisive, leaving no room for negotiations. This lad was going to get unlucky. Why not? Against the head butler's verdict, Feng Lin didn't retreat. The clan raised you up, so every single one of you has a duty to fulfill. As a low-grade clansman who can't get into college, playing your part in the clan's factory is your duty and your destiny. You must know that this clan doesn't tolerate good-for-nothings. If everyone turned a blind eye on the rules like you do and reject their responsibility to the clan, then won't everything be thrown into chaos? Will there still be any clan rules to speak of then? The head butler lashed out severely. Just because I can't get into college, I'll have to contribute to the clan? Feng Lin didn't panic, a confident smile tugged at the corner of his lips instead before asking again, then what happens if I can get into university? What? University? Your vitality is at a mere 0.4, what a pipe dream. The head butler didn't disguise his scorn, but neither could he continue from there. With a point of his finger, he retrieved his examination record from school. On it, his vitality stats of 1.5 was striking. This was Earth High School's result slip, which could be retrieved from their data storage at any time and was made public. The data was conclusive and impossible to forge. Like a sounding slap to the face, the head butler was rendered speechless. His face began to burn up, but despite the case, his gaze towards Feng Lin grew increasingly annoyed. One couldn't go against the clan rules. He was the guardian of this, yet this Feng Lin wanted to break down the clan's order for the past thousands of years with just this little achievement? How delusional. What can you do with 1.5 vitality? He tore his attention away from Feng Lin's result slip, seemingly unimpressed by it at all. Earth High School is nothing more than a garbage school in Huaxia City. Among others, your vitality isn't superior either. How capable could you be to get into a good university? If all you can get into is one of Earth's diploma mills, then you'll be unemployed the moment you graduate. It'd still be the clan's burden if you can't find work. With such little vitality, you wish to be free of the clan's duties? Impossible. You should know that there are a number of young interstellar cultivators in our clan with the vitality of more than 10. What's the use of 1.5? Every word was dripping with disdain, degrading Feng Lin's examination results and his school into insignificance. This was unacceptable to Feng Lin. He suppressed the anger and frustration in his heart. Feng Lin had wanted to reveal the truth of his vitality reaching 2.3, but that seemed unnecessary now. At long last, Feng Lin saw the truth. This head butler was belittling him. The Feng clan had a profound foundation. Perhaps only interstellar cultivators would be worth a glance in this head butler's eyes. There was no use of him saying anything more. It would only instigate more scorn and mockery. Young man, don't bite off more than you can chew. Unless you can get into Interstellar University, there's not an ounce of possibility for you to escape your duties towards the clan. Your talent and potential are still worlds away from being the clan's exception. You only have a choice now, to follow the clan's arrangement and intern at the clan's factory obediently. Otherwise, if you don't even have a job in future, you'll be kicked out of the clan and become one of the losers on the streets of this society. The warning was clearly laced among head butler's words. In fact, it sounded more like a threat. I can't wait till I get kicked out. To others, this might have been a warning from the head butler, but Feng Lin couldn't care less about it. If he had to work at the clan's factory, then he'd rather leave. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, he didn't want to flee like a loser either. Getting into Interstellar University? Feng Lin didn't waste his energy any further, but he wouldn't give up. Fight, he must fight. Fight to the end, never give up. Feng Lin wouldn't let others manipulate his fate like this. In a low voice, he spoke up, "Head butler, I'll definitely not intern at the clan's factory. How about this, why don't we make a deal?" "What deal?" the head butler asked instinctively, regretting it in an instant. Feng Lin lowered his eyes, his gaze was dark. This was the last trick up his sleeve. Although he knew that the possibility of succeeding was slim, as the head butler was too unfeeling, not giving him the slightest chance, it was all Feng Lin could do in order to fight for his future. Unless absolutely necessary, he wouldn't get kicked out of the clan. The society out there was cruel and turbulent. He didn't think it would be a big deal to himself, but his parents and siblings were all regular folks. If he allowed himself to be reckless, he was afraid the consequences would be dire. Since Feng Lin inherited this body, he had inherited its karma too. He couldn't be this selfish, abandoning his family in this life and left all by himself. Which was why he could only do his best. "We can have a deal. Let me fully prepare for my college entrance exam. If I don't make it, I'll return to the clan without protest and no longer hold any fantasies. I'll commit to the clan's duties obediently. However, if I make it through, I don't need anything. I just want the clan to release my family from their restrictions and allow me to freely pursue cultivation. The clan will also gain a true genius who gets into Interstellar University in this way. It's little investment for greater returns. What can you have against it?" At that, Feng Lin paused for a moment. His gaze was sharp as knife when he made contact. "How about it? Head butler, what do you think?"